My answer to the board is yes, we have the financial capacity, which is obvious, but we also have the managerial capacity. So this is the time to do something like this. Now's the time to strike. Hey, Christoph, it's so nice to see you. Welcome to S&P Global.
Well, thanks for having me at your headquarters. It's great to be here.
Come on in.
So S&P Global is almost a household name for business leaders. Tell us a bit more about S&P Global.
Well, we start with data and analytics that we provide to our clients to make informed decisions. That's everything we think about. How can we be independent? How can we provide information? And that cuts across all the divisions, the ratings division, indices, market intelligence, commodity insights, and mobility. And that's one of the beauties of our business. It's these embedded data flows that people need to use to run contracts and make decisions.
And tell us a bit more about your mix on a global scale.
We service clients in over 150 countries. They're humming. And there's a lot of growth in the emerging markets. And we see maybe the biggest theme that's important to us right now is seeing the shift from bank markets to capital markets. And that's happening all over the world.
So you became CEO in 2013, so it's now more than a decade. Tell us a bit more about one of these defining moments that truly shaped the company and also you as a leader.
After about 3 years of being CEO, the name of the company was McGraw-Hill Financial. And I realized that we needed to bring the organization together under one brand, which was S&P Global. And at the time, we had the rating agency, we had the index business, and they all fit together, but we had some businesses that didn't. And this gave me the ability to have a single brand, a single vision for the company. And it's also helped mark going forward from then on what our strategy is and how we think about building the portfolio. Strategy has to be driven by what do your clients need and what are they doing. Those biggest themes were what was happening with sustainability, with digital transformation. The private markets were starting to emerge. And we said we need to understand how we can fulfill the needs of our clients in these areas. We could do it organically. We could do it with small tuck-ins, or we could find a partner that would allow us to move to scale very quickly. And that's what we decided to do with the merger with IHS Markit.
That was, I think, the biggest M&A move in the world, actually, in that
2020.
year.
Yes,
across all industries, and certainly the biggest one that you had ever done at S&P Global. What got you so excited about IHS Markit?
Well, we used to talk about it, the industrial logic of the two companies, and they had data and analytics that we didn't have, and we had the benchmarks and the technology platforms that they didn't have.
That was in the middle of COVID that you made that decision. I mean, were you just sitting at home, not being able to come to the office, wondering what bold move you could make? Or how did the idea come up and how did the whole process start?
Well, it wasn't quite like that. We had a scan of the markets for many, many years, and IHS Market was always part of that scan. But we said, well, should we do something that's bold? And we started thinking about how are we going to do it. It started with a phone call to the CEO, Lance Ugla of IHS Market, and we had to decide how we were going to work. And there were two ways that I had to think about it for the board. The first was our financial capacity to undertake a large transaction like this. This was quite large. It ended up being over $40 billion. But probably the more important question was, do we have the leadership capacity? To do something like this requires you to have a strong team of people who have proven in the field, who are change managers, who have experience doing mergers and acquisitions, including divestitures. And my answer to the board is yes, we have the financial capacity, which is obvious, but we also have the managerial capacity. So this is the time to do something like this. Now's the time to strike.
So it all started with a phone call that you made to the CEO of IHS Markit. How did that happen?
After getting the approval from our board of directors that I could make the phone call, which isn't always easy, I was at a vacation home and I had to sneak out on a balcony and make a phone call. And I got him right away, and he was intrigued, but didn't say yes the first time and said he was going to go back and think about it and look at it. And a couple days later, he called me back and said, let's sign an NDA. And so that was good. And it meant that we were able to move pretty fast, and we had really cordial discussions throughout.
So there was an important element of personal chemistry and trust.
Absolutely. I'd known Lance for many years, somebody that I've worked with over the years, been in commissions with him and things like that. So somebody I knew, company I knew well, and we were able to have that trust and that very strong relationship throughout.
How did you convince your leadership team, your board, that this was the right moment?
Well, I'll tell you something that's very practical, not very strategic, very practical. Trying to do something like this during COVID was a big challenge. We had one of our very first management meetings with the management teams from both sides in Connecticut. We rented a place where they normally have weddings. We all took COVID tests and we sat about 10 feet apart. We had all of the windows open, even though it was the fall and it was a little bit cold outside, so we could have fresh air and we could be in a room together to actually get the entire management team from both sides together to get to know each other, to start doing the due diligence. And it took really long. I tried to take a step back and said, well, let's take advantage of that to come up with a plan for the strategy, the organization design, who are going to be the leaders across every part of the organization, who are going to be all of their direct reports. So as opposed to many mergers and acquisitions, the day the deal closed, we had an executive team, we had an entire organization below them, and even a lot of the organization below them was already defined. So we were able to move really fast after we closed.
You are generally known to be a very people-oriented CEO, and you were that before the deal with IHS Markit. Now, the merger happens. People topics are incredibly important at that moment. What were the big opportunities, and also what were the challenges that you had to navigate?
We've always talked about our culture being people-first, customer-centric, and we think that combination of being really fair to your people, understanding how important it is that we have values, we have a strategy, our people are involved in constant communications, but that it's all about the customer and delivering innovation to the customer. We found that IHS Markit had a similar culture. They were people-oriented, customer-oriented. They had innovation in the middle of what they did. So bringing the two cultures together wasn't too hard, but it's not easy. And I talked about those meetings that we were having to pull together the management team. We had some really tough conversations, but valuable conversations about what kind of company do we want to be.
Obviously, this transaction, the merger, completely repositioned S&P Global strategically, operationally, people-wise. I'm sure it has also shaped you as a leader. What are your big takeaways from this process?
I've been involved in many big change management initiatives, crisis management, other mergers and acquisitions throughout my career. But what really became apparent to me and more obvious than ever was the importance of culture. I've talked about it before and I've always thought about it, but when you have two large organizations that are this big coming together, if you don't put that front and center, it's not going to happen. And I know sometimes talking about things like vision and purpose and values sounds like it's an academic exercise, but it's not. It actually is meaningful. And when I think about the culture that we've built and putting those values up front every single day has been so important for our success.
I couldn't agree more. In the end, I mean, culture always sounds fluffy, but you can measure it, you can document it, you can articulate it, and you can change it. And I do think the boldest and most successful leaders know that and actually do it, whether it's in the situation of a merger or in the normal course of business. So thank you for talking about the moment of truth. It's always wonderful to hear from you, Doug.
Thank you so much.